Thank you very much. That's a lot of press. Congratulations. You bring them out. You really bring them out. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu back to the White House. It's a wonderful feeling and a wonderful event. We had fantastic talks, and thank you very much with your staff. He's the first foreign head of state to visit during our administration, and Bibi, I want to say it's an honor to have you with us. Over the past 4 years, the U.S. and the Israeli alliance has been tested more than any time in history. But the bonds of friendship and affection between the American and Israeli people have endured for generations, and they are absolutely unbreakable. They are unbreakable. I'm confident that under our leadership, the cherished alliance between our two countries will soon be stronger than ever. We had a great relationship. We had great victories together 4 years ago. Not so many victories over the past 4 years, however. In my first term, Prime Minister and I forged a tremendously successful partnership that brought peace and stability to the Middle East like it hadn't seen in decades. Together, we defeated ISIS. We ended the disastrous Iran nuclear deal, one of the worst deals ever made, by the way, and imposed the toughest ever sanctions on the Iranian regime. We starved Hamas and Iran's other terrorist proxies, and we starved them like they had never seen before. Resources and support disappeared for them. I recognized Israel's capital, opened the American embassy in Jerusalem, and got it built, by the way. Built it too, just not only designated it, but got it built at a price that nobody's seen for 40 years. We got it built, it's beautiful, all Jerusalem stone, right from nearby, and it's something that's very special. And recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, something that they talked about for 70 years, and they weren't able to get it, and I got it. And with the historic Abraham Accord, something that was really an achievement that was, I think, going to become more and more important because we achieved the most significant Middle East peace agreements in half a century, but the Abraham Accords in particular, and I really believe that many countries will soon be joining this amazing peace and economic development transaction. It really is a big economic development transaction. I think we're going to have a lot of people signing up very quickly. Unfortunately, for 4 years, nobody signed up. Nobody did anything for 4 years except in the negative. Unfortunately, the weakness and incompetence of those years, those past 4 years, the grave damage around the globe that was done, including in the Middle East, grave damage all over the globe. The horrors of October 7th would never have happened if I were president. The Ukraine and Russia disaster would never have happened if I were president. Over the past 16 months, Israel has endured a sustained, aggressive, and murderous assault on every front, but they fought back bravely. You see that, and you know that. What we have witnessed is an all-out attack on the very existence of a Jewish state in the Jewish homeland. The Israelis have stood strong and united in the face of an enemy that has kidnapped, tortured, raped, and slaughtered innocent men, women, children, and even little babies. I want to salute the Israeli people for meeting this trial with courage and determination and unflinching resolve. They have been strong. In our meetings today, the Prime Minister and I focused on the future, discussing how we can work together to ensure Hamas is eliminated and ultimately restore peace to a very troubled region. It's been troubled, but what's happened in the last 4 years has not been good. I want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for working closely with my transition team, the Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who's here somewhere. Steve? Stand up, Steve, please. What a job you've done. What a good job you've done. Proud of you. Done a fantastic job. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Thank you, Mike, for working so well with us. Thank you. We have In addition, Marco Rubio, who is on the phone right now, listening to every single word that we say, and he's going to be great. And Pete, congratulations. And Scott, congratulations. I see you're here. And Caroline's been doing a great job. She's really probably talked about more than anybody here. She's done a fantastic job, and thank you very much, Caroline. We're proud of you. But we'll only be satisfied when all of these problems are solved, and we have the team to solve them, and that's going to happen. And it's going to happen, I think, very quickly. I also strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades, and so bad for the people anywhere near it, and especially those who live there, and frankly, who's been really very unlucky. It's been very unlucky. It's been an unlucky place for a long time. Being in its presence just has not been good, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there. Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck. This can be paid for by neighboring countries of great wealth. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12. It could be numerous sites, or it could be one large site. But the people will be able to live in comfort and peace, and we'll make sure something really spectacular is done. They're going to have peace. They're not going to be shot at and killed and destroyed like this civilization of wonderful people has had to endure. The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job. Do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. I'm hopeful that this ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for all. With the same goal in mind, my administration has been moving quickly to restore trust in the alliance and rebuild American strength throughout the region. And we've really done that. We're a respected nation again. A lot's happened in the last couple of weeks. We are actually a very respected nation again. I ended the last administration's de facto arms embargo on over $1 billion in military assistance for Israel. And I'm also pleased to announce that this afternoon, the United States withdrew from the anti-Semitic UN Human Rights Council and ended all of the support for the UN Relief and Works Agency, which funneled money to Hamas and which was very disloyal to humanity. Today, I also took action to restore a maximum pressure policy on the Iranian regime, and we will once again enforce the most aggressive possible sanctions, drive Iranian oil exports to zero, and diminish the regime's capacity to fund terror throughout the region and throughout the world. We had no threat when I left office. Iran was not able to sell oil. Nobody was buying oil because I said, don't buy it. If you buy it, you're not doing any business with the United States. And Hamas was not being funded. Hezbollah was not being funded. Nobody was being funded. There would never have been an October 7th. 2 weeks ago, I once again designated the Houthis as a terrorist organization. They're trying to destroy world shipping lanes, and that's not going to happen. And over the weekend, I ordered airstrikes against senior ISIS leaders hiding in the caves of Somalia and took them out. Here in America, we've begun the process of deporting foreign terrorists, jihadists, and Hamas sympathizers from our soil, just as we have people that are extremely evil, and we're sending them out of our country. They came from jails. They came from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they were dumped into our country. They're gang members. We're getting them out at numbers that nobody can actually believe. And every single country is taking those people back. They said they would never take them back, and they're all taking them back, and they're taking them back very gladly. And I recently signed an executive order combating the vile wave of anti-Semitism that we've seen in the aftermath of the October 7th attacks. Together, America and Israel will renew the optimism that shined so brightly just 4 years ago. It was really a bright, beautiful light. We will restore calm and stability to the region and expand prosperity, opportunity, and hope to our nations and for all people of the Middle East, including the Arab and Muslim nations. Very important. We want the Arab and Muslim nations to have peace and have tranquility and have great lives. I'd like to now invite Prime Minister Netanyahu to say a few words, and we'll take some questions afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm honored that you invited me to be the first foreign leader to visit the White House in your second term. This is a testament to your friendship and support for the Jewish state and the Jewish people. I've said this before, I'll say it again. You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House. And that's why the people of Israel have such enormous respect for you. In your first term, you recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. You moved the American embassy there. You recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. You withdrew from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. I remember we spoke about it. You said, this is the worst deal I've ever seen. I'm elected, I'm walking out of it. That's exactly what you did. And I think it speaks loudly for just common sense, just looking at things and seeing them as they are. And of course, you also brokered the groundbreaking Abraham Accords in which Israel made peace with 4 Arab states. We did this in 4 months. Nothing happened for a quarter of a century, but in 4 months, we were able, working together under your leadership, to have 4 historic peace accords. And now in the first days of your second term, you picked up right where you left off. Your leadership helped bring our hostages home, among them American citizens. You freed up munitions that have been withheld from Israel. They had been withheld from Israel in the midst of a 7-front war for our existence. And you just freed it. You ended unjust sanctions against law-abiding Israeli citizens. You boldly confronted the scourge of anti-Semitism. You stopped funding, as you just said, international organizations like UNRWA that support and fund terrorists. And today, you renewed the maximum pressure campaign against Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, all this in just 2 weeks. Can we imagine where we'll be in 4 years? I can. I know you can, Mr. President. For our part, we in Israel have been pretty busy too. Since the horrendous October 7th attack, we've been fighting our common enemies and changing the face of the Middle East. On that infamous day, Hamas monsters savagely murdered 1,200 innocent people, including more than 40 Americans. They beheaded men, they raped women, they burnt babies alive, and they took 251 people hostage to the dungeons of Gaza. And after this worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust, Iran and its henchmen in the Middle East were absolutely ecstatic. Haniya praised the massacre. Sinwar said that Israel was finished. Nasrallah boasted that Israel was, here's what he said, as feeble as a spider's web. Well, Mr. President, Haniya is gone. Sinwar is gone. Nasrallah is gone. We've devastated Hamas. We decimated Hezbollah. We destroyed Assad's remaining armaments. And we crippled Iran's air defenses. And in doing this, we've defeated some of America's worst enemies. We took out terrorists who were wanted for decades for shedding rivers of American blood, including the blood of 241 Marines murdered in Beirut. We accomplished all this with the indomitable spirit of our people and the boundless courage of our soldiers. The Bible says that the people of Israel shall rise like lions, and boy did we rise. Today, the roar of the Lion of Judah is heard loudly throughout the Middle East. Israel has never been stronger, and the Iran terror axis has never been weaker. But as we discussed, Mr. President, to secure our future and bring peace to our region, we have to finish the job. In Gaza, Israel has three goals: destroy Hamas's military and governing capabilities, secure the release of all of our hostages, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. I believe, Mr. President, that your willingness to puncture conventional thinking that has failed time and time and time again, your willingness to think outside the box with fresh ideas will help us achieve all these goals. And I've seen you do this many times. You cut to the chase. You see things others refuse to see. You say things others refuse to say. And after the jaws drop, people scratch their heads and they say, you know, he's right. And this is the kind of thinking that enabled us to bring the Abraham Accords. This is the kind of thinking that will reshape the Middle East and bring peace. We also see eye to eye on Iran. That's the same Iran that tried to kill us both. They tried to kill you, Mr. President. They tried through their proxies to kill me. We're both committed to rolling back Iran's aggression in the region and ensuring that Iran never develops a nuclear weapon. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, Israel will end the war by winning the war. Israel's victory will be America's victory. We will not only win the war, working together, we will win the peace. With your leadership, Mr. President, and our partnership, I believe that we will forge a brilliant future for our region and bring our great alliance to even greater heights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, baby. Very nice. Thank you. And J.D. Vance, everybody. J.D., please, Vice President, stand up. He's been doing a good job. He's been working very hard on all things, but this in particular. We'll take some questions, please. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President, can a normalization deal with Saudi Arabia be achieved without the acknowledgement of a Palestinian state? That question for you too, Mr. Prime Minister. And Mr. President, given what you've said about Gaza, did the U.S. send troops to help secure the security vacuum?
So Saudi Arabia is going to be very helpful, and they have been very helpful. They want peace in the Middle East. It's very simple. We know their leader and their leaders very well. They're wonderful people, and they want peace in the Middle East. As far as Gaza is concerned, we'll do what is necessary. If it's necessary, we'll do that. We're going to take over that peace, and we're going to develop it, create thousands and thousands of jobs, and it'll be something that the entire Middle East can be very proud of. But everybody feels that continuing the same process that's gone on forever, over and over again, and then it starts, and then the killing starts, and all of the other problems start, and you end up in the same place, and we don't want to see that happen. So by the United States, with its stability and strength, owning it, especially the strength that we're developing and developed over the last fairly short period of time, I would say really since the election, I think we'll be a keeper of something that is very, very strong, very powerful, and very, very good for the area, not just for Israel, for the entire Middle East. Very important. And we'll, again, have thousands of jobs, and there'll be jobs for everyone, not for a specific group of people, but for everybody. Okay, please.
I think peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia is not only feasible, I think it's going to happen. I think if we had another half a year in your first term, it would have already happened.
True. Many, many more, I agree, many more nations.
I think you can't prejudge and pre-guess how we'll achieve it, but I'm committed to achieving it. And I know the President is committed to achieving it, and I think the Saudi leadership is interested to achieve it. So we'll give it a good shot, and I think we'll succeed.
Yeah, please, go ahead. Well, I can't tell you whether or not the ceasefire will hold. We've done, I think, a very masterful job. We weren't helped very much by the Biden administration, I can tell you that. But we've gotten quite a few hostages out. We're going to get more out. But we're dealing with very complex people. And we are going to see whether or not it holds. We certainly want to have more come out. They've come out damaged in many ways, very damaged people. But they're going to get better, and they're going to be strong, and they're going to have a good life. And we hope to get as many as possible out. Whether or not it holds, I don't know. We hope it holds. We hope it holds.
I think that at the appropriate time, which I think will enable us to really investigate what happens, what were the causes of the failures, by an independent commission that will be accepted by the majority of the people. We don't want it accepted by one half of the people and not the other. I think we should have it, and we should find out exactly what happened. I'm insisting on it. And believe me, it'll surprise a lot of people when it happens.
Kelly, go ahead, please.
You are outlining something that is really quite striking tonight. You are talking about... Okay. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister. You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there, redevelopment? And Mr. Prime Minister, do you see this idea as a way to expand the boundaries of Israel and to have a longer peace, even though the Israeli people know how important that land is to you and your citizens, just as the space is inherited by the Palestinians as well?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble and demolished buildings falling all over. It's just a terrible sight. I've studied it. I've studied this very closely over a lot of months, and I've seen it from every different angle. And it's a very, very dangerous place to be, and it's only going to get worse. And I think this is an idea that's gotten tremendous, and I'm talking about from the highest level of leadership, gotten tremendous praise. And if the United States can help to bring stability and peace in the Middle East, we'll do that. Bibi?
I mentioned again tonight our three goals, and the third goal is to make sure that Gaza never poses a threat to Israel again. President Trump is taking it to a much higher level. He sees a different future for that piece of land that has been the focus of so much terrorism so many attacks against us, so many trials and so many tribulations. He has a different idea. And I think it's worth paying attention to this. We're talking about it. He's exploring it with his people, with his staff. I think it's something that could change history. And it's worthwhile really pursuing this avenue.
Yeah, please, go ahead. Go ahead. Right.
President, I have a question for you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So before rebuilding Gaza again, obviously we take out all the hostages, and one of them is Sudan, an American soldier who is alive. How will you be sure that you will take out all the hostages and then rebuild?
We're working very hard to get all the hostages. The word is all, and we are working very hard. So far, it's been moving along fairly rapidly, pretty much on schedule. I'd love to have them all out at one time, but we're taking them out, and tomorrow more are being released, and over the days more, and then we'll go into a phase 2. But we'd like to get all of the hostages, and if we don't, it will just make us somewhat more violent. I will tell you that, because they would have broken their word. Mr. Witkoff and his entire group have been working 24 hours around the clock, and they want them out, and promises have been made to them, and we'll see whether or not those promises will be kept. But we want all the hostages, that's right.
How much time do you think it will take? A month?
Do you support, Mr. President, do you support Israeli sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, areas which many believe is the biblical homeland of the Jewish people?
Well, we're discussing that with many of your representatives. You're represented very well, and people do like the idea, but we haven't taken a position on it yet. But we will be we'll be making an announcement probably on that very specific topic over the next 4 weeks. Go ahead, please. Please.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. So you just said that you think all the Palestinians should be relocated to other countries. Does that mean that you do not support a two-state solution?
It doesn't mean anything about a two-state or one state or any other state. It means that we want to have, we want to give people a chance at life. They have never had a chance at life because the Gaza Strip has been a hellhole for people living there. It's been horrible. Hamas has made it so bad, so dangerous, so unfair to people. And by doing what I'm recommending that we do, it's a very strong recommendation, but it is a strong recommendation. By doing that, we think we're going to bring perhaps great peace to long beyond this area. And I have to stress, this is not for Israel. This is for everybody in the Middle East, Arabs, Muslims. This is for everybody. This would be where they can partake in terms of jobs and living and all of the other benefits. And I think it's very important. It just doesn't work the other way. You know, you can't keep trying. They just has been going along for so many decades, you can't even count. You just can't keep doing. You have to learn from history. You can't keep doing the same mistake over and over again. Gaza is a hellhole right now. It was before the bombing started, frankly. And we're going to give people a chance to live in a beautiful community that's safe and secure. And I think you're going to see a tremendous outflowing of support. I can tell you, I spoke to other leaders of countries in the Middle East, and they love the idea. They say it would really bring stability, and what we need is stability. Yes, sir, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Are you still committed to imposing sanctions on the ICC, despite the move being stalled in the Senate? And please, a question for the Prime Minister as well. The President has been very clear about his desire to achieve a deal with Saudi Arabia. How do you settle this if Israel is required to renew the war against Hamas in the future?
Go ahead, Bibi.
I think everybody understands that just as the President fought and defeated Al-Qaeda and ISIS, that we can't leave Hamas there because Hamas will continue the battle to destroy Israel. They'll do, you know, when in this temporary ceasefire, one of their leaders comes out, you know what he says? We're going to do October 7th again, except we'll do it bigger. So obviously, you can't talk about peace neither with Hamas or in the Middle East, if this toxic, murderous organization is left standing. Any more that you could make peace in Europe after World War II if the Nazi regime was left standing and the Nazi army was left standing. You want a different future? You got to knock out the people who want to destroy you and destroy peace. That's what we're going to do. I think that will also usher in, actually, the peace with Saudi Arabia and with others. And I think there will be others, too.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Afghan suffered women as a high expectation from you. Do you have any plan to change Afghanistan situation? Are you able to recognize Taliban? Because I'm an Afghan journalist, Afghan suffered women. Any comment about Afghanistan? What's your future plan for Afghan people, especially Afghanistan?
I have a little hard time understanding you. Where are you from? Oh. Actually, it's a beautiful voice and a beautiful accent. The only problem is I can't understand a word you're saying. But I just say this, good luck, live in peace. Go ahead, please. That's okay, yeah, please.
Prime Minister, you said earlier today that it was tough for you to implement these sanctions on Iran, but you did indicate that you were willing to negotiate with them. What would that look like, and are you in conversations with them? And the same for the Prime Minister, sir.
I hated doing it. I want Iran to be peaceful and successful. I hated doing it. I did it once before, and we brought them down to a level where they were unable to give any money. They had to survive themselves, and they had no money. They were essentially broke, and they had no money for, as I said, Hezbollah. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for any form of terror. The 28, if you call it, the 28 sites of terror, they had no money for any of it. They had to do their own and focus on their own well-being. And I hated to do it then, and I hate to do it just as much now. And I say this, and I say this to Iran, who's listening very intently. I would love to be able to make a great deal, a deal where you can get on with your lives and you'll do wonderfully. You'll do wonderfully. Incredible people, industrious, beautiful, just an unbelievable group of people in Iran. And I know them well, have many friends from Iran and many friends that are Americans from Iran, and they're very proud of Iran. But I hated to do it, just so you understand. And I hope we're going to be able to do something so that it doesn't end up in a very catastrophic situation. I don't want to see that happen. I really want to see peace, and I hope that we're able to do that. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. I'm not putting restrictions. They cannot have one thing. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if I think that they will have a nuclear weapon, despite what I just said, I think that's going to be very unfortunate for them. If, on the other hand, they can convince us that they won't, and I hope they can. It's very easy to do. It's actually very easy to do. I think they're going to have an unbelievable future. Yeah, please, sir, go ahead.
Plan for Gaza.
Yes.
Can you lay out your plan for Ukraine and also
for Ukraine?
For Ukraine, yes. You consider yourself a strong leader. You blamed your predecessor for letting Russia to take over Ukraine. Will you demand from Putin to get out of Ukraine, from sovereign territory of Ukraine?
So we're dealing right now in the subject. I don't want to spend a lot of time because we're here for another reason, but we are having very good talks, very constructive talks on Ukraine. And we are talking to the Russians. We're talking to the Ukrainian leadership. It would have never happened. That would have never happened. It should have never happened. I get reports every week, the number of soldiers, mostly soldiers now. The cities have been largely demolished. You talk about a very sad sight to see. We talk Gaza. Well, many of these cities look as bad as Gaza and worse, what's happened to them. And I want to see that end. And I want to see it end for one simple reason, the life of young people being absolutely obliterated on both sides. You probably have 700,000 Ukrainian soldiers dead, 800,000, maybe more Russian soldiers dead. It's very flat land, and the only thing that's going to stop a bullet is a human body. In this case, usually soldiers. and the numbers are staggering. When you hear the real numbers in Ukraine, what the numbers are, and this doesn't include the cities that have been demolished and all of the people that were killed. So I want to see it stopped. We're having very good talks, and I think we're going to get it. I think something will be, hopefully dramatically, it will rise above everything. You can't let this continue. This is an absolute slaughter that's taking place on the beautiful farmlands of Ukraine, and we have to stop it. We can't let this continue. It is a human tragedy, and we're going to try very hard to stop it. Yeah, please, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. President, what's your view about Palestinian leader Abbas' role in all the regional changes you want to do? And a question for the Prime Minister, what's your view on President Trump wanting to reach a deal with Iran and not a much more active military stance towards him?
Go ahead, baby. Go ahead.
I think the President just said something that I think is the pivot of everything that we're talking about. He said Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And we fully agree with that. If this goal can be achieved by a maximum pressure campaign, so be it. But I think the most important thing is to focus on the goal, which the President just did, and I fully agree with him.
Well, I said it, and he said it very well. It's a campaign of pressure to see if we can get something done. He doesn't want to do what some people think will automatically happen because they're very difficult people to deal with, as you know. But if we could solve this problem without warfare, without all of the things that you've been witnessing over the last number of years, it would be, I think it would be a tremendous thing. Go ahead, please.
Do you have any plans to visit Israel soon?
To visit where?
Israel and Gaza.
Oh, well, I love Israel. I will visit there, and I'll visit Gaza, and I'll visit Saudi Arabia, and I'll visit other places all over the Middle East. The Middle East is an incredible place, so vibrant, so it's just one of the really beautiful places and with great people. And I think a lot of bad leadership has taken place in the Middle East that's allowed this to happen. It's just terrible. And that includes on the American side, by the way. We should have never gone in there a long time ago, spent trillions of dollars and created so much death. So that includes Americans. But yeah, I'll be visiting a lot of different places in the Middle East. I've been invited everywhere, but I will be visiting some, yeah. Okay. Let's go. Caitlin, go ahead, Caitlin. Caitlin, go ahead.
On what you were saying there.
Say it. Go ahead, please.
Just to follow up on what you were saying about the Gazans leaving Gaza, going to other countries. One, where exactly are you suggesting that they should go? And two, are you saying they should return after it's rebuilt? And if not, who do you envision living there?
I envision a world, people living there, the world's people. I think you'll make that into an international, unbelievable place. I think the potential in the Gaza Strip is unbelievable. And I think the entire world, representatives from all over the world will be there, and they'll live there. Palestinians also. Palestinians will live there. Many people will live there. But they've tried the other, and they've tried it for decades and decades and decades. It's not going to work. It didn't work. It will never work. And you have to learn from history. History has, you just can't let it keep repeating itself. We have an opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent. But more importantly than that is the people that have been absolutely destroyed that live there now can live in peace in a much better situation because they're living in hell. And those people will now be able to live in peace. We'll make sure that it's done world class. It'll be wonderful for the people. Palestinians mostly we're talking about. And I have a feeling that despite them saying no, I have a feeling that the king in Jordan and that the general president, but that the general in Egypt will open their hearts and will give us the kind of land that we need to get this done. And people can live in harmony and in peace. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
观众朋友们好，欢迎大家来到本期的经济学究以及思想先驱报的现场。最近呢，大家讨论的最热烈的就是有关于 DeepSeek 的突破。结果啊，在这个春节前啊，大年30这一天，阿里云突然是宣布新一代的大模型 Q1 2.5 Max 啊，已经呢是超过了全球的顶级模型。那么整个股市的反应可以说是相当的迅速啊，美股阿里的股价在收盘前是一下子拉升啊，将近7%。那么到底如何看待 Q1 2.5 Max 的发布呢？有人说原来这个大模型领域是美国企业和美国企业之间 PK， 结果DeepSeek 一出，发现不是美国企业和美国企业 PK， 也不是中国和美国企业 PK， 而是土生土长的中国软件工程师和在美国被培训的软件工程师在 PK， 并且呢是放出了这个 DeepSeek 团队的照片以及 OpenAI 团队的照片，我们看到很多不少华裔面孔结果现在阿里通义千问团队发表了这样的一个声明，结果人家说不是中国和美国，也不是中国人和中国人自己卷，而是杭州的2家地方企业在卷也讲到了现在杭州作为中国在上海附近的这样一个城市，似乎原来是以电商闻名，现在呢已经是更广阔不仅仅呢是 AI， 我们之前为大家介绍到的这个冯骥的这个黑神话悟空这样一款游戏，它的 studio 也是在杭州。那么到底这个技术突破是什么样的？其实我们之前为大家介绍到这个阿里的这一款最新模型也是采用的混合专家的架构。那么预训练的数据大概是20万亿左右那么在整个这个行业基准测试中，看到基本是和国际模型领先，甚至呢还要是这个更加突破一步。现在有人说说这个阿里呢可能也有模型本身突破之外的其他的进意。我们看到阿里云的这个百链平台也开放了这个完整的 AI 工具链。那么这样的一种一体化架构就更类似于这个亚马逊的这个 AWS。这样的我们叫做云计算服务商的一个模式不仅仅是有超算集群，同时呢还有云原生的架构，还有就是开源生态那么未来到底会对整个 AI 领域有什么样的影响呢？我们今天特别关注到的是摩根士丹利的一份研报其中特别讲到中国 AI 资产的重估这个时刻可能已经到了。那么 AI 技术现在已经是打响了一场从中国为中心的无声战役那么如果是看到摩根士丹利的研报短期之内大型的科技公司如果呢是采用现在这样的一种技术路线，那么可能短期之内对于 AI 的训练需求会有下降，但是什么呢？模型成本一低了，对于推理需求增长就增加了。所以我们之前也为大家讲到所谓的这个杰文斯悖论，现在对于英伟达的需求其实是比较复杂的一个过程不是大家简单想的这个市场血洗18%之下来整个 AI 泡沫破裂，不是这样简单化的一个结论。那么对于中国来讲其实对于中国的数据中心也有影响，特别是一线城市的数据中心。那么很多的科技公司如果是采用了类似的这样的一个这个我们叫做低成本模型的代配方式的话，那么对于一线城市数据中心市场恐怕在短期之内就会有提升另外我们也注意到 AI 模型的成本一下降，应用的门槛也下降了，所以整个的这个智能化应用可能也会更加普及。那未来中国的软件APP 等等等等也会有可能迎来一个 AI 的春天。那么现在大家更重要的一个 这个我们叫做问题，或者是犹豫，或者呢是猜想，就是是不是整个中国的这个 AI 生态系统，其实它的这个级别以及进化程度已经远远超过了我们之前的想象。那我们看到美股因为 AI 的整体增值啊，已经是超过10万亿美元了。那么接下来中国 AI 资产的重估是不是也到了？我们特别看到摩根士坦利的这样的一个报告中指出了这样的一个现象啊。那么和平先生到底是如何看待这个问题的？今天呢，我们也特别请和平先生来谈一谈。
谢谢李奇博士啊。不过我做这个回应的时候啊，已经是在李奇博士提出问题之后，已经是过去了10几个小时。那么我现在啊，这个做回应的时间是美国的东部时间凌晨啊2、3点钟了啊，2、3点钟。那我为什么推迟这么晚在做呢？啊，你要讲一个理由吧，有2点。一个理由呢，就是因为今天的新闻非常之多啊，一件接着来。那么作为新闻人有新闻就是非常的紧张啊，一是要追，一是要了解啊。那么所以拍的这么晚。当然还有另外一个原因，我就希望美国的媒体或者西方的媒体或者是专业人士对阿里巴巴所推出的这个语音模型有一个评价。但是很可惜到现在为止都没有这样的一些专业报道出来，甚至很少看到报道。我也不知道是什么原因，是因为这个系统还没有正式推出来让媒体人知道，还是说呢美国的媒体根本就没有注意到这回事现在我们作为媒体人作为这个使用者是没有办法做出非常专业的这个评判，说阿里巴巴是不是比深度探索更厉害，还是说这是阿里巴巴的一个吹牛。但是我也讲的是，如果阿里巴巴这么短的时间之内就宣布超过了这个深度探索，有没有这种可能性呢？我认为这种可能性是存在的，也许不是阿里巴巴或者是腾讯，或者是其他的这个百度等等等等。我为什么说有这种可能性呢？甚至我认为过一段时间，美国比如说 OpenAI 比如说谷歌比如说脸书，他们推出的语音模型比现在这个深度探索还要好。我也是相信的，因为现在的这个市场大家是互相在争相推出这个优秀的产品。美国有强大的资金支撑，美国有自由的一个人才流动的这么一个环境人才非常之多。虽然里面很多是华裔的这种研究者，但是它还有其他族裔的全球化的这个研究者在这个里面移民到美国或者留下来美国所以美国的人才储备也很充分，资金也很充分而且呢，一是有这样的研究的很专业的背景，所以呢，它能够产生新的语言模型，我觉得也是可能的。中国呢在这个人工智能的人才培训已经是相当的系统，而且经过了一定的时间。第二个是中国的这些企业资金也不缺乏，虽然他们估值远远没有这个中国那么高，但是呢，他们自己本身的这个资金来进行研究研发的资金是有的，而且呢这个中国的工程师非常之多从这次深度探索就可以看出来，没有留学的这么一个团队照样可以做出这个产品。而中国的其他的团队不但有自己的本土的力量，也有这个留学归来的人，所以中国的竞争优势也是非常的这个强大。那这种谁会取得胜利，我们现在很难做出一个结论。也许是今天你取得胜利，明天我取得胜利然后不断的在这样一个比赛也好，竞争也好这样一个互相成长的过程也好，让这个人工智能的这个进化速度来得会更快来得会更快。所以我恰恰所期待的一个局面 将会出现不是说有了一个 OpenAI 它就独霸天下，实际上在美国也出现了很多相应的这个大同小异有不同改变的这种大型语言模型出来也有了中国也是一样估计一段时间也推出来了。那中国的这个推出来的一个力量就是中国的对市场的热情，或者是中国自己本身的市场已经非常非常之大，而且它虽然可能跟西方未必能够完全对接起来，但是呢它在很多的地区它的影响力是非常之大的，所以中国的这个市场也不只是局限于中国大陆自己本身的这个市场而且中国的整个的工业化的发展，它是个系统性的一种崛起，是个整体性的崛起所以它的背景所支撑的力量很强，不是这家公司就是那家公司的崛起。你看看最近这几年中国在很多的领域里面，包括传统的互联网包括后来的应用城市，中国都发展的并不比美国差，甚至在某些应用城市来讲已经超过了这个美国所以这种趋势我觉得会继续下去。好了，谢谢我们的观众，再见。
想成为全球沟通达人吗？六度人工智能语音克隆技术帮你实现梦想。在这个新时代，语言障碍已成过去，我们隆重推出六度人工智能语音克隆系统。这项由欧美亚顶尖专家研发的突破性技术，让你可以克隆自己的声音，并将文字转换成145种语言和方言，提升你的个人和职业生活。想象一下，你可以在日本参加商务会议，在巴西上课，或与意大利的朋友畅聊，而这一切都用你自己的声音、他们的语言进行。操作简单，只需点击几下，无需复杂的科技知识，就能享受无缝衔接的体验，让世界向你敞开。从商务到教育，从媒体到娱乐，应用场景无处不在。企业可以更好地与全球客户建立联系。教育机构可以提供多语言学习，媒体可以创作更丰富的内容，触达更广泛的受众。今天就来体验这项革命性技术吧！访问，迈向你的声音无国界的未来。
欢迎来到六度解析新闻背后的多维思考，带你洞悉头条背后的世界。在今日华尔街频道的六度解析中，我们将深入探究时事热点，为你揭开新闻背后的真相。在这个信息泛滥、真相难觅的时代，六度解析应运而生。我运用海量数据、人工智能整合以及专家观点，层层剥析每个故事。通过实时背景数据挖掘，确保你获得全面的新闻资讯。然而，我们关注的不仅仅是数据，更重要的是将它们串联起来。我将分析多方视角，揭示隐藏的脉络，为你提供单一媒体常常忽略的背景信息。无论是政治、经济，还是全球事务，我都将为你带来最具洞察力的分析。试想一下，拥有洞悉全局的能力，做出明智的决策，参与有意义的讨论，这就是六度解析带给你的价值。它不仅仅是新闻分析，更是一种赋能的工具。加入今日华尔街的六度解析，共同探索头条背后的故事。你通往深度理解的旅程，从这里开始。不要只是阅读新闻，要解码新闻，理解新闻，活出新闻。这一切尽在六度解析。立即订阅，不错过任何真知灼见。因为了解真相仅仅是个开始。欢迎。
华尔街论坛的直播的现场，那这里呢，我们是以远程连线的方式啊，我们和何斌先生一起在接下来的几十分钟里啊，也聊一聊当前最热的话题啊。先让何斌先生跟大家打一个招呼。
小袁好，大家好。
那么在过去的24小时，准确的说是12个小时，那么12个小时的时间啊，那些在 Temu 在生意上经营着小本生意的成千上万的那些小商家们，那么他们的心态可以说是坐了一回过山车。为什么这么说啊？那么在美国邮政局 Usps 停收中国包裹仅仅不到1天的时间，在美东时间的2月5日，美国邮政局更新了公告啊，说从2月5日开始啊，恢复接收从中国包括香港入境的包裹。那么美国邮政局这边说啊，他们正在与海关和边境保护局密切合作，实施有效的中国新关税征收机制啊，以确保对包裹配送的干扰最小。那么在当地时间的2月4日，就是在12个小时左右之前，美国邮政局 USPS 是宣布暂停接收来自中国包括香港的包裹，直至另行通知。那么信函和平信邮件啊，这个邮件中的信件是不受影响的。但是啊，对于这样的一出暂停接收包裹啊，美国邮政局是没有做任何的解释。那么在美东时间的2月3日下午呢，美国海关和边境保护局是发布了关于对中国进口商品征收额外关税和对最低限度货物处理的指导公告。那么根据这份公告，川普2025年2月1日签署的总统行政令指导，对来自中国包括香港的进口商品将不再适用最低限度的免税政策，也将交纳10%的额外关税。这个政策呢，之前的文件说了是自2月4日起开始实施。在这之前呢，亚马逊啊、易贝啊等美国电商平台上的中国卖家，以及全托管模式下采用小包空运，包括 Temu 啊、包括 Shein 等中国跨境电商平台，一般就通过这样的一个最低限度政策进入美国。这个政策啊，在过去几年，有很多人把这个政策理解为这个是中国的一些商业从业者利用美国政策的空子钻空子、钻漏洞，那么进行的一个生意。那么一般这样的包裹那在那些经营着电商平台或者是经营着中美物流的业内人士那里叫做 T86 报关，或者叫做 T86 清关。这个呢是美国进口货物的一种海关申报类型。这也意味着只要是 现在的这个政策，只要是你是中国制造的商品，那无论你从哪里发货，你从这个马来西亚发货，那从墨西哥发货，从加拿大发货，都必须要走正常的通关渠道。那之前你这个小额包裹进入美国不再收税，不再被征税那一套是行不通了。因为现在追查这些进入美国的包裹，那么现在的这个只看你是哪里生产的这个 country of origin， 而不是发货地。那么有了这样的一个政策，过去的几十个小时那些小商家们经营电商平台的业者们可以说心态是比较的复杂。这个也是我们在华尔街六度里要跟大家补充的一条即时信息。那么从昨天到今天这样一番来自美国邮政局的突然的变化，或者是说这样的一个反复或许多少也证明了川普他的这一项行政令带来的影响，或者是这些美国政府部门呢还没有及时理解通透，或者是各部门的协调呢还存在着一些问题。那接下来还是把目光移到今天要讨论的几个主要的话题。第一个话题那就是川普昨天呢又引发了一条大新闻。这条大新闻和中国不太有关系，但是在世界上是引起了巨大的震荡。
大家好，我们非常高兴的为大家。
那么在说川普的这样的一个新闻之前呢也有相当多的媒体呢把目光或者是把这个媒体的注意力聚焦在了之前这个川普的好巴弟马斯克的身上。他们发现呢，马斯克所率领的这样的一个新的部门政府效率部 DOGE， 他们这个部门里并不是由一群审计师组成，由一群查账的审计师组成的，而是一群由年轻的软件工程师组成的。那这样的一群年轻的软件工程师利用 AI 技术，利用这个大数据的处理去追踪每一笔来自美国政府的资金的去向，从而去揪出那些很可疑的行为。那这呢才有了前几天闪电关闭美国国际开发署 USAID 的那一出。那么根据美国媒体连线报道其实现在马斯克手下有6个天才般的年轻人，也被一些这个中国网民戏称为马斯克的6君子。那这也明显的是跟中国的戊戌变法的6君子给联系了起来。那确实马斯克手下是有这6个软件工程师，非常年轻他们的年龄是介于19岁到24岁。这6个人呢，阿卡什博巴、爱德华克里斯汀卢克法里托、戈蒂埃科尔基利安以及加文克利格和伊森绍特然，他们呢是在马斯克的 DOGE 这个部门里担任了各种角色，推进 DOGE 的议程。那么过去几天那用一句话总结，可以说就是这几个青年的软件工程师，几个年轻的马龙打的政府的一群老年人还有一些阿伯阿妈是满地找牙。那么这样的一出在未来的1年半的时间中可能每天都会上演，因为 DOGE 这样的一个政府效率部门是在成立之初就宣布将在2026年7月4日呢自动解散。而它在这成立的1年多的时间里就是要促进美国政府的效率。那很可能这样一个自动解散的组织之前并没有引来一些美国政府内部人士，甚至是这个民主党内部人士的一个担忧。但很显然现在的情况让这一些美国的资深政客们所预计的是截然相反。那讲完了